Good morning, and welcome to all of you who have dialed in this morning to the first of the peer-to-peer learning and leadership webinars that are part of an emerging statewide technical assistance model for short-term residential treatment providers and other residential services providers in California. We're very pleased that you have taken the time to join us this morning, and we hope that the next hour is filled with learning and helpful conversation. Today's content is focused on the key partnership processes and strategies that go into effective placing agency and provider relationships. Each of you should have a chat box available to you on your computer screen, and you can open that chat box and either put questions into chat, or there's also a question option, I think, for most of you, that you can type in your questions as our presenters deliver their information today. We will not be taking questions verbally or through audio format, so you'll have to type in your questions as we proceed. So we're here today with the support of many folks, and we appreciate all of those who have contributed to this effort. This is a partial list. We want to acknowledge in particular today the Continuum of Care Reform Branch at the Department of Social Services, who have not only conceptually supported the delivery of this much needed technical assistance and organizational development, but who are hosting and facilitating our presentation this morning. So thank you to our CCR team. We also want to celebrate the participation of the California Alliance for Child and Family Services and our friends at the Child and Family Policy Institute of California, who have been critical to the planning and delivery of this technical assistance. To give you just a little bit of context for our presentations that are envisioned under this technical assistance model, these webinars are intended to be, at this point, monthly or nearly monthly throughout 2019. And they are part and parcel of a larger technical assistance approach, which has emerged as a result of an acknowledgement through the CCR effort that there is an ongoing need to assist and support the development of organizational capacity and competency in our residential services environment. The statewide technical assistance will hopefully support and ensure that providers in California have access to and implement with consistency the core organizational and leadership practices that our young people in residential care need. It acknowledges also that many of our organizations are already highly effective in these areas, and in fact, the peer-to-peer format is intended to bring forward that kind of institutional learning that's present already here in California. On your screen now are some guiding principles, and I won't take the time to reflect on those verbally with you, but I reference them here just so you can recognize what's driving this effort. There are many emerging needs within and around the continuum of care reform, and our residential services providers have great expertise and have, in many respects, enhanced the service delivery dynamic already in California. And this effort, again, is part and parcel of an approach that seeks to maximize that opportunity here in California. So here are the guiding principles really that underscore this effort across the state. The course content, which we'll get to in just a moment, has really been inspired by some historical learning here in California. Beginning in 2013 or so, some of our organizational providers were involved in the RVS movement, and we learned a great deal as a state about what works for young people and their families in residential care. And so we started from that learning. And the inspiration content has further been refined by the learning that's come forward under the continuum of care reform process. And of course, we're anchored deeply in the system of care research and the wraparound processes that have been so effective across the country in the last 20 years. And upon all of those efforts, there was a good deal of healthy curation and assessment of the national research on best practices in residential care for young people. And what that led us to here in California was a recognition that there are really about 10 areas that effective residential services embody or encapsulate or focus upon as organizations. This technical assistance is not intended, as you hopefully know at this point, for direct service personnel, for those working within and around the milieu. Consistently, this in fact is a focused effort for decision makers, policy makers, training professionals, and others at the more management and senior management levels within our provider ecology. And these are the 10 areas that have emerged as being focus areas. These 10 areas are based in the historic learning here in California. And this list has been reviewed and vetted by a stakeholder group, which is known as the Continuum of Care Reform State County Team. And they have aligned themselves with these 10 areas as being those organizational areas where we need to focus here in California. Today's effort and the content that you're about to hear is rooted in element number 3, and it again focuses on the key partnerships that are necessary for effective relationships to be established between placing agencies on the county public side and our STRTP and residential care providers on the private side. And we will, in subsequent months, hear content on the other 9 areas. And so we hope you'll join us in our subsequent learning conversations as we proceed through this list of 10. There's no particular order or priority to these. I would, just call out that the first element is first, I think, just because organizationally, of course, intuitively, as from a leadership standpoint, we do have to focus on core mission, vision, values, and what our purpose is as an organization. That really is the anchor to the remaining elements. I would clarify element number 6, which has been confusing to some. Family findings should really be considered something closer to family engagement and involvement, if you will, and not a kind of a classic or limited family finding that really is the responsibility of our public placing agencies. So don't be confused by that the nomenclature there. So again, we'll get to each of these areas over the next year or so, and we hope you'll join us for those events. With that as context, I'm pleased to introduce to you Katie Pfeiffer, who is the Admissions and Utilization Manager at Casa Pacifica Centers for Children and Families. And Katie has some terrific material that she's prepared for you today. And so we'll transition the webinar controls to Katie, and we welcome you, Katie.
Thank you for joining us today. And I know on our PowerPoint, it does show that Dr. Kelsey Tatum was to be joining us today. And I apologize to everyone who was looking forward to hearing from her. She unfortunately had a loss in her family and is unable to join us. But I will be providing her contact information at the end of this presentation. And if there are any questions that you have for her or that I'm unable to answer, I'd be happy to take them and follow up with you when she does return. A little background on me. I've been with Casa Pacifica for a little over 8 years. I started as a clinician and a clinical supervisor, and I was able to transition into this position as admission and utilization manager about 2.5 years ago. Again, today we really want to focus on the agency provider partnerships and our STRTP teaming process. In this session, we're going to be deepening the awareness and value of the purpose of building open, trusting, and accountable relationships between providers and our county agencies. We also want to discuss ways to navigate a team relationship that's not working well and how to overcome those barriers so that we can have effective teaming for our youth, and identify opportunities for teaming that enhance partnerships and outcomes. A little background on Casa Pacifica. We were established in 1994. We began as an emergency shelter as an RCL 12 and also residential treatment center level 14. And we also have community-based services. We offer therapeutic behavior services, wraparound services, family foster agency, and the intensive treatment foster care family. Sorry, I always forget that acronym there. And about a year and a half ago, we obtained our STRTP license. I do know there's a little controversy. We don't know if we were second or third in the state, but that's a little bit of our history here at Casa Pacifica. And then to give a little more context, we are located in Ventura County on a 25-acre campus. We have the capacity to bring 42 youth into our STRTP. We do receive referrals from over 40 counties, and currently our out-of-county referrals represent about 80% of our referrals. So while when we were emergency shelter, we had a majority of our own county youth, we're finding that as we've transitioned to an STRTP, we are bringing in more out-of-county youth. So the teaming process is so imperative for us. So the question we have for consideration today is, how can we as a system work to collaboratively address barriers to successful teaming? So I'd really like you to be keeping this in the back of your head as we go through the slides today, because we really want to think about, we're all different. All of our agencies are different. Each county is different. So what works for some of us may not work for all of us, but if we work together, we can come up with ideas to help each other all be successful. So to start, we'll go through the value of the effective partnerships. The first place where I think this happens for a lot of us is in the past it was, it's our county kid, they're mine, they're yours, and kind of passing the bill to each other. But this new model that we really want to do is embrace the youth as ours. It doesn't matter where the youth is currently residing. It doesn't matter what county they came from or who's paying for their placement. It's our youth. We all need to be working together to really focus on their best interest, and everyone take a responsibility in that youth role. We also want to promote consideration of all areas of the youth's life, and that could mean looking at family, looking at community. Are they involved? Do they have coaches involved? Are they involved in a church? Do they have a connection there that could be on their team? Education. Is there a teacher that they're really connected to at their school, or even at their past schools or their past placements or their past communities where they've lived, that could join the CFT team to really help contribute? Because all of these youth have a history, and unfortunately for a lot of them, they might have family involved, they might not. But if we can hold on to their connections and their support and carry them with each placement they have, those people can contribute to the team, let us know what's worked in the past, what hasn't worked, what has the youth experienced. The youth aren't always able to verbalize that to us. And then also the legal system, if they have a probation officer, getting them involved and really understanding, how they got involved in the legal system and what can we do to help them, get out, get off of probation, and be more successful in life. So we also want to rely on the experience and expertise of all the members in order to reduce bias and narrow thinking. Everyone on the CFT team, every support in that youth's life has value. And I think we really need to look at that. And there have been cases where we find at Casa Pacifica where maybe a youth, their family there's not going to be family reunification. It's not an option, but the youth still wants their family involved. So we really want to work towards that. It doesn't have to be that, that we discount the value of the family. We can still involve that parent. We can still have them engage in the CFT. We can still try and work towards visits or having them out to our program to participate and have a visit here on campus. But they're still an important person in that youth's life. And so I think we really need to kind of get away from they can't reunify with mom and dad, so they're not an option. They don't need to be involved because they know their child's history, and they know how they contribute to their child's history. And it also kind of looking at the responsibility to reduce risk of re-traumatization in their systems of care. If we're working together and working with the youth supports that have existed throughout their life and in their different communities where they've lived, we can also prevent putting them in situations that they've been in before that have been traumatic. We can work together to try and reduce 7-day notices that are also, that's just another abandonment for the youth. It's another re-traumatization for them. We can work to reduce, a county pulling a youth from a program because they hear an incident happen. So if we're remaining in communication and we're really working together, then we can really help the youth be successful and reduce the trauma that they experience throughout their life in the system. The process of a group of we have the definition of teaming, so it's going to be the process of a group of people coming together who are committed to a common purpose, approach, and performance for goals for which they will hold themselves mutually accountable. And this is, again, it goes back to every member of the CFT has value, and so we need to work together, and all of us have the youth in our hearts of the best interest of the youth. So we really want to look at what's going to help them be successful, what's going to be in their best interest. And we have to work together to do that. And we have to be able to think outside of the box to do that. So for the elements of successful teaming, first we want to look at the mutual respect and valuing of team members' contributions. And that goes back to you can have psychiatrists and clinicians and social workers on your team, but we have found sometimes the most valuable team member can be a teacher or a coach that the youth has confided in. So it's really understanding that even though some of the members on the team, might be a family member that someone doesn't feel is healthy or a coach that the youth has in the community, everyone has value, and we need to respect that. And everyone holds information that this youth has provided or of this youth's history that can help us make the youth successful. Collaboration towards common goals. And again, I think this goes back to when we're looking at, if a youth comes into our program, what are the next steps for them? What goals are we all working towards? What do we expect? What is the definition of success for this youth? We all need to be in agreement on that and working towards that, because otherwise everyone's working separately. And again, that can cause re-traumatization for the youth. We want to be working together of what's the plan? Are we working to reunify with family? Are we working to find a foster home for this youth? Are we working, what are the goals that we're working towards? What behaviors are we trying to reduce? We all need to get on the same page about that so that we can be successful together and help the youth be successful. Transparency about roles, values, and observations. And I think this one, it can be hard, but in the room, we have to be able to be honest with each other. If maybe a parent feels that the clinician isn't doing something that they feel needs to be done, or, the youth is reporting to their coach that they don't feel heard by their psychiatrist, even if that feedback is being given to us, we need to be able to accept that and to own that. Again, the youth is going to entrust information into the people that they feel are the most trustworthy and the most important. And until we build that connection with them, we really have to take this information very seriously and be willing to accept feedback, and be open and honest with each other. If, we as an STRTP are very concerned that, a youth behaviors are escalating, we're struggling to contain them, and a 7-day notice is floating in our mind, we have to be able to talk to the Placine County about that and be transparent about that. And again, maybe there's some resources or, some extra supports that we can bring in that have worked in the past to reduce these behaviors. But it's really being open and honest with each other and valuing the feedback that we give one another. Yeah, just really having those difficult conversations. And all members participate in plan development and implementation. And we know with the CFTs, it can be really hard to get everybody there at the same time. It can be really hard to get everyone on the phone at the same time, but it's so imperative to do that. And if an important team member can't be there or an important community member or support can't be there, we want to let them know kind of what's on our agenda to talk about and any concerns we have or successes that we'd like to share so that we can gather their feedback as well and make sure that that is shared at the CFT. But it's really important for us all to commit to being there and working together, because when we're not showing up and we're not present, it's an abandonment for our youth, and it's telling the youth that we don't feel that they're important enough to be there for them. And they've heard that enough in their life, so we don't want to cause more trauma. So we need to be there, we need to be present, we need to participate. And then the explicit commitment to making teaming a priority. And again, it just goes back to kind of what I was speaking to. We have to commit to our youth. We all need to take ownership of them, and we need to be there. And that's going to take showing up. And I know it can be, again, it could be a lot of meetings, a lot of CFTs on various people's plates, but to the youth, it's just them. This is their team. They are not thinking about the 10 other teams or the 30 other teams that you're participating in. For them, it's for themselves and you showing a commitment to them, and that we need to make that a priority to work together in their best interest. So teaming opportunities are everywhere. So again, I know I've used the CFT meetings a lot and having that initial orientation and our team commitments and our action and accountability plans. But some of the things that we do here at Costa Pacifica, we also offer training for our peer agencies and community education. And really that just gets people more familiar with Costa Pacifica. It gets other agencies more involved with Costa Pacifica so that our youth do have more community support and that we're supporting each other, because while we have our STRTP, we want our other STRTPs to be successful too, because there's a high likelihood that we might see each other's youth in our programs. We offer suicide prevention trainings in the local schools. That is something now required in California, that the schools offer suicide prevention training. So even this summer, we were invited out to all of our local high schools' health classes to do a presentation and to give our youth education on suicide prevention and what it's like when you have those feelings and what resources are available to you. We also have the privilege here in Ventura County. Our law enforcement has what they call CIT officers, the crisis intervention trained officers. And they invite us to come out and present on Costa Pacifica. And then they also invite us to come out and present on juvenile mental health, really to help our officers understand, that these youth, their brains are still developing. Their behaviors can be a symptom of the trauma that they've experienced. So it's not that they're trying to specifically target people or deliberately do these behaviors, but sometimes they're a product of their environment and their development. So it's really helping our officers understand how youth mental health works. And so that when they do have to come to our facility and respond, they can take a different approach and they can have a different mindset when they walk in. We do proactive, collaborative meetings with our county. So for the child and family treatment teams, we have a Kaizen every year with Ventura County, which is about a week-long process where we really want to look at what is our expectation for our CFTs, what do we want them to look like, how are we going to lead them, what's the agenda going to be, so that we're all on the same page with all of our agencies in Ventura County. We also have a joint clinical oversight committee, our local law enforcement collaborative, and then we have the trauma-informed care collaborative. So we really want to be working with our own county behavioral health, as well as our sister agencies here in the county, to make sure we're all working together and towards a common goal so we can support each other. Again, we're all different sizes, so we all have different tools to help each other when maybe we're feeling stuck on a case or we're struggling with a placement and feel maybe that one of our sister agencies might be a better fit. And then we also want to be thoughtful of the reactive and responsive collaborative meetings, which is often with our local law enforcement collaborative and our local school district collaborative, because things do happen. And so we want to have those follow-up meetings with them. You know, here's what we're doing to address it. Here's what we need to change. Here's maybe we need more of your support. And that's been huge, especially with our law enforcement, but also with our schools, because a lot of our youth have gotten very far in life without having an IEP maybe, and they're going to the local school, and they're very large schools, and the schools aren't necessarily used to having youth with a level of trauma that our youth have. And then for us, the teaming process really starts at admissions. So we're really asking the important questions during the youth interview. We get the referral packets, we get all the information about their history and where they've been and what's happened. But we really want to ask the youth what they're wanting, what their focus is, so that, again, when we're working with the CFT team, we can all get on the same page. And we can also be transparent with the youth about what's possible. Looking through that referral packet that we get for supports who get it. And again, it goes back to sometimes we notice there's a teacher that maybe showed up at court for them that really spoke for them or advocated, or there's a coach who's been a regular in their life, or even a neighbor when they were young that's kind of remained connected to want to know how the youth is doing. We really want to get those supports involved in the CFT. It doesn't have to just be the professionals. Follow up with placing agencies for additional information and begin to establish connections. And again, that just goes through, we want to ask the additional questions. Someone recently referred to the referral process. It's like selling a used car, and we never want to compare a youth to a used car, but it's so true. We only get a limited amount of information in that packet. So we've learned it's okay to ask for additional information and to reach out. And, if we see a parent in that packet, we'd like to call the parent ahead of time before they come in and get them engaged and get them to agree to participate. Or again, those community supports or the educational supports that are involved, we'll reach out to them before a youth even admits to Casa Pacifica to get them to agree to be on the CFT team. Anticipating the gaps or challenges and proactively identifying solutions or support strategies. And this can be a big one because sometimes we find that there is no plan for a youth when they're entering our program into our STRTP. So it's really working together to what can we do if this youth really has no supports, no family members, no connections. Can we get family finding started? What was the plan in the past? Did the family lose reunification privileges because they timed out, or is it because of a behavior or a situation within the family? So we want to work together to identify solutions and options and get those strategies going from day one, even before day one, before the youth comes in, so that we can already start working on the plan. And the pre-admission phone calls to important others and invitations for a campus tour. And again, we want to look at those supports, those people who get it in that youth's life, and make them feel welcomed, make them feel a part of a team. We have found that, again, the parents that maybe don't have reunification options but have visitation, they don't feel a part of the team. So we want to talk to them ahead of time. We bring them out to campus. We invite them to tour and kind of get to know our program and understand what their youth will be doing. And again, we would do that for any of these supports because we want them to feel a part of Casa Pacifica, a part of the family, and a part of the CFT. And then the admissions day welcoming. It's getting the youth started and set up for success. It's all about how they enter. So we really want to give them a warm welcome when they enter. So it's bringing them in, recognizing that they're nervous, that they're scared. We have peer specialists that come and welcome our youth. They come up with our admissions team. They help walk the youth and tour them around campus and kind of show them the lay of the land, help them get settled in their room. We also have therapy dogs on our campus. We have Newfoundlands. So if you're not familiar with that breed, they're pretty large. They're about 165, 185 pounds. So we have one that's a little more rambunctious and likes to run around with the kids. And we have another one that's a little bit more relaxed and likes to lay down and just be cuddled and brushed and groomed. So that's also really huge on admissions day for our youth to know that they have that. And the minute our youth walk in the door, they always love to see the dogs and cuddle with them. And then the initial CFT meeting scheduling. We really try and get this done before the youth is coming. Once their admission date is confirmed, we're already working to schedule that CFT meeting to make sure that it happens right away. If we can, we'd like to do it while the social worker is still in town, just so that they can be physically present. It's not always possible, but it is really important to us to have as many live bodies present as possible. Some of the barriers and challenges that we have to effective teaming is neglecting to include important team members. And sometimes we learn that, again, through that initial CFT or even after with the youth. They might mention someone who's important in their life or an important support who really knows them, gets them, understands them, that we neglected to include. So we're really constantly searching and asking amongst the current team members and the youth who else we can include, who else we can invite, who has been important in this youth's life. Missing opportunities to establish shared commitments. Again, this goes back to us working together and taking ownership together and not passing the buck on one another. Avoiding the tough conversations or the meetings after the meetings. Again, this is where we really have to be able to accept feedback from each other. We really have to be able to be transparent. Sometimes things come up and then there's the meeting after the meeting to talk about it, and maybe people don't want to talk about it or they're avoiding it. But again, we're working in the best interest of the youth. We have to be willing to overcome these barriers and, deal with our independent and our individual emotions and just have the tough conversation, give the tough feedback, as well as receive the tough feedback. Staff transitions, so the turnover, the promotions, and the role changes. This can be really challenging. I think, a lot of our direct care staff, there is turnover. Their role might be a stepping stone in their career for them. And we just want to be really thoughtful about how the youth experience this and how that loss is for them. Because again, for some youth, it can be another source of abandonment, another trauma in their life when they make these connections and the person moves on. So we want to be thoughtful, no matter what the person's role is, to be having that transition, having the staff have those conversations with the youth, having transitional times. And then when they've moved on to a promotion or a role change in the agency, still keeping them connected. we have an admissions coordinator here who leads a guitar clinic for our youth. And of course, it's absolutely not a part of his job responsibilities, but so many of the youth have connections with him because he's the first person they see when they come to campus. So, I think we can all play that part and take a role to remain connected to our youth. The demands of the job. So I think, when behaviors are escalated and things get busy, or there's documentation that needs to be done, sometimes we can be short or dismissive or put things, in regards to the youth or the CFT on the back burner. And again, we need to be prioritizing the youth. We need to be making that CFT and our commitments that we've made in the CFT a priority to show that youth that we're going to follow through for them and that we are going to be a solid support for them. The work styles, personalities, and resulting team dynamics. We're all individual people. We all have our ways. We can all be stuck in certain ways that we have, but again, we have to work together as a team. So we have to be willing to work past things that we individually have with each other, or that, a county thinks about an agency, or maybe even a parent on the team or a support on the team. We have to keep in the back of our mind that everybody on the team has value. And despite our individual personalities, we're working towards the same common goal, and we need to work past our personalities to work together. So even if that means having a meeting after the meeting to hash something out that's a personality conflict or difference, then we need to do that, because when we're in the CFT, we need to show a united front and support for the youth. And then the geographic distance between team members. And I think this is a huge one for us, especially as we've increased the number of out-of-county placements that we have. Again, we know that not everybody can be physically present for every CFT, but for us, we even try if it can be every other month or once a quarter, or can we meet halfway to have a live CFT, to have everyone there. We really want to work to do that because it's so important for the youth. It's one thing when people are showing up on the phone, but it's so important for them to see their team physically there and everybody physically working together in their best interest to show them we want them to be successful. So we do have to work together on that. Maybe it's taking turns, having the CFT in different locations, or meeting halfway, even doing Skype, whatever we have to do so that the youth can physically see who's committed to them. So again, just kind of reflect back of how can we as a system work collaboratively to address barriers to successful teaming. And again, we're all individual agencies. We're all different sizes. We take kids from different areas. But I think part of it is when we get stuck is feeling okay and confident to reach out to each other and how can we work together? Have you ever faced this barrier? Have you had this situation? If you guys did face this, what would you do, or what do you recommend? We really need to work together, because the fact of the matter is we're all going to get some of the same youth at different times, and we might be able to help with that, or we might know, the agency that could help you work with that, or we might know someone at the placement agency that might have an answer for you, or a different contact. So all of us working together so that we can have some successful teaming happening is imperative for our youth. And I do have Marika Collins with me here, and I think she wanted to mention something as well.
Hi, good morning. I think I just wanted to chime in a little bit further on this collaboration piece in terms of the barriers, and really sometimes feeling like you're really stuck in a rut, in a hole, and what am I going to do? It's overwhelming at times. Some of these new issues that are cropping up, and I think really what's helped us from day one is knowing that we have this large what's the word I'm looking for?
Network.
Thank you. Network of sister agencies across the state, neighboring county in LA, whether it be Hathaway Sycamores or, or some of our sister agencies up north. And really, it's really helpful, like in other spheres of your life, to do that reality testing, like, am I crazy or are you having this experience as well? And so, whether it's through the California Alliance or any other collaborators that you're a part of, I would just encourage reaching out to sister agencies, small or large, just to do that reality testing and just to get other ways of looking at the problem that you're in, because sometimes you really just need somebody else's perspective to help work through that. But and then finally, I would just say, I think we've all lived historically in our own little silos of we're providers, they're the county, they're the placing agency, but really we have to really, I think, start talking as a we, and as we have all these different regional forums that the state is hosting or the counties are hosting. I think it's really imperative that we come together at whenever these opportunities are presented, to come together and really, put a name on a face or a face on a name, so that, we really are feeling like a we and not an us and a them. So.
We've included some resources and readings here, and we have the California Integrated Core Practice Model for Children, Youth, and Families, which is the connecting point for all of us, and some other resources here that can help better abilities to manage the group, the CFT, and to collaborate together. And again, here is the contact information for myself and Dr. Kelsey Tatum. And if you ever have questions or you would like to ask us how we do things and, or you'd like some additional support, we are always available and happy to help and collaborate together. So please make sure to hang on to that and reach out to us as you need.
All right, Katie, thank you for that. We are happy to take a couple moments for any questions. Feel free to submit your questions there via the GoToWebinar process. Katie, I was wondering if you could elaborate a little bit about the Kaizen process that you have there with Ventura. Who attends that event? What kind of processes comprise that? And is there maybe an example of a Ventura conversation that's been helpful, maybe from your last event, that might illustrate what the value is for that kind of an encounter locally?
Yeah, so I can definitely tell you about the process and who's included. Unfortunately, I was not at the last one, so I can have Dr. Tatum follow up with specific conversations there. But essentially, at our Kaizen, we have all of our local STRTPs and group homes attend. Our county human services agency and social workers attend. Our county placement attends. Their psychiatrists, our psychiatrists, our nursing staff, and when I say the various group homes and agencies, it's all of their clinical teams, all of their psychiatry teams and nursing teams, really all the key players at all the agencies within the county. And it's coming together to make sure that we all are working towards the same goal, that we're doing things uniformly, and that we know that we're all running our CFTs similarly, and what the county is looking for and their expectations for us in the CFTs, and as well as knowing what resources are available and where we go if we need to have finding, or how we refer youth to therapeutic behavior services or wraparound services if we want. It's really making sure that we're all on the same page and that we all know what's available to us for our youth in the process.
Thank you for that. Appreciate that elaboration. All right. I hope you'll join with me in a digital round of applause for Katie and the team at Casa Pacifica. Thank you for taking the time over the last month to prepare this information and deliver it to us today. Again, if you have questions specific to the content and would like to hear more from Casa Pacifica, you can email Katie. I would also like to invite feedback about the delivery of the webinar process. If you have helpful feedback based on your experience this morning, please feel free to email me. I'm Richard.Knecht, K-N-E-C-H-T @dss.ca.gov. Likewise, if you have organizational expertise in one of the 10 content areas that you saw reflected at the beginning and would like to present at a future webinar, we would love to engage with you and assist in the development and delivery of that, of your organizational experience. By way of announcement, there are 2 upcoming events for your information. The first is February 12th. Our friends at CCR are sponsoring a webinar that is titled Reducing the Frequency of Law Enforcement Involvement. And this relates to the recently passed AB 1811 legislation. There are funds available for organizations to do development and technical assistance to further develop trauma-informed systems and reduce the impact of residential care services on law enforcement partners. And this is February 12th at 10 a.m. If you have not received a registration invitation from CCR, please reach out through the CCR email account and somebody will forward you that registration. Likewise, our next technical assistance peer-to-peer webinar, excuse me, will be Monday, February 25th at 1 o'clock. We look forward to hearing from our friends at the Hannah Boyce Center, who will be presenting on authentic trauma-informed services. And we're excited to have this topic come forward. For many years now, as a service industry, we have, of course, been talking the talk of trauma-informed care. What we know organizationally is that it can be far more challenging to actually create and sustain a system of care delivery that is authentically trauma-informed. And so we're looking forward to our partners at Hannah Boyce Center and their presentation on February 25th at 1 o'clock. We hope that you'll join us and watch for a future email with an invitation to register for that event on February 25th. With that, we will sign off. Thank you for joining us today, and we look forward to visiting with you in February.